Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Rule 34 podcast. I'm your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co host,
Dominic Castillo. Yeah.
Yeah, alright, so we are back. How have you been, Dom, since our last recording?
I have been pretty good. So far, nothing much has happened. We finally got into our spring break vacation, so that's one whole week of just nothing. Although, funny enough, I'm still given springtime homework. So, technically, this is not much of a spring break, considering I still have to do an essay over the entirety of this week. And I have to make sure I pass it, or else, nothing good is going to happen if I don't pass it.
It's very much like when school, whether it was middle school or high school, they would tell us, oh, here you go, here's a break, for summer or for winter, but also here's all this stuff you have completed before you get, before you start the next semester or the next year,
Yeah.
And then it's like, realistically, or not even like, somewhat realistically, you could finish it like within the first like couple weeks, but like, realistically, no one's trying to do that, Like, it always ends up getting saved to the end because it's like, it's supposed to be a break,
Exactly.
And that's mainly for summer, like the summer ones were always kind of confusing because it was like, this is supposed to be the break period, from one year to another, not carrying even more work,
Yeah.
Like the winter ones kind of made sense sometimes because it was like, oh, maybe like it was just like some like short amount of work. Like I know for math sometimes they either wouldn't give work or it would just be like something to keep the math fresh in your mind or to give you a little preview of what you're going to learn come winter semester,
Yeah.
But the summer stuff always just didn't make sense. The winter stuff didn't make sense to me either because it was like, how do you expect people to get the work done when Christmas, New Year's are around the corner,
Yeah.
And like, that's the one kind of period that people are truly going to utilize as break because, family members will hopefully be getting time off of work as well,
True.
And then, but like, going back to the thing of like, usually save it till the end. It's like, that's usually what happens during the summertime breaks where it's like, you kind of save the work till the end because you're actually trying to use it as a break. And then
Right.
The spring break stuff, I get like a week break is like very useful. I can tell you that. But at the same time, it's just always like, it goes by so quickly that you can't even notice it as a break.
Yeah, you got a point. Personally, when it comes to like the spring break stuff, I try to do all my homework the first day of the break, or at least until the second day. I remember, what was it, back in freshman year? What's the freshman? Yeah, back in freshman year, we were assigned a book. I think it was called, what was it? Jack, do you by any chance remember reading that one book from our English teacher about the dog? Yeah, I think it was about
the curious incident of the dog in the nighttime.
Exactly, yeah. I remember completing that book in one night and answering all of the questions in the what was like the huge homework packet of like 100 and something questions. I don't remember how many questions it was, but I remember completing all of that in one night. The same day we left school to go to what was it, winter break?
Yeah, winter break.
So yeah, but I can't lie to you. It was pretty exhausting staying up to like 3 a.m. just to read one whole book. It was a good book. I can't lie. For the time, I really loved the book, the story, the plot. The plot twist at the end was pretty crazy, but yeah. When it comes to the winter break, the summer break, the spring breaks, I always try to like do it as fast as I can, knowing that in the back of my head, when it's the final day of the vacation, I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. I've always kind of been the opposite. I'm a big procrastinator, I've always ended up saving things till like the very end. But right. I don't know if you feel similar, but like that added pressure almost maximizes your efficiency at the same time. Like the fact that you know you have to finish it by like this certain time, it almost like ups the ante, you know? Because
Ooh,
like
yeah,
if I try doing it, you know, right away, I kind of get in the mindset of, man, I have all this time to do. Whereas like if I don't have the time, it's like I'm kind of rushing, but at the same time, I'm still working at maximum proficiency. Like I'm making sure it's still good, you know? Like I'm not just turning in something that's half effort, you know?
yeah. You got a point. You got a point.
And I mean that happened for a long time. I was a big procrastinator, you know. College has
Right.
kind of helped me where it's like I've kind of balanced it. Like I think we talked about it last year on the podcast for like the multiple different finals weeks that we would go through. I talked about how you know, I would break it down into what to work on each day, you know.
Right. Right.
So like I realistically, or not even realistic, but like I could have finished the 10-page essay in one day, you know, but I split it across like 3-4 days instead, and like split up the work so that it was manageable, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if you feel the same way, but college breaks are very much an improvement over the kind of breaks you get, as we mentioned in middle school and high school, because it's an actual break between semesters, you know. Obviously, like you mentioned, your spring break, you still have work, but like winter and summer break actually feel like breaks because there is no work that has to be done in preparation, you know.
That's true. You got a point. You got a
Like
point.
those months you get off are actual months that you like, you don't have to worry about anything. Like the only thing you have to worry about is whenever they allow you to enroll for next classes, and even then it's like you don't got to worry about checking out the material until like a week before the actual semester starts.
Right. Right.
So like it definitely feels like breaks. Like it was such an odd thing to me after finishing fall quarter my first year, because I was just like, well, it's winter break now. I'm so used to having work to do, and here I am actually able to relax and do the stuff I want.
You got a point. You got a point. I also wanted to add, like, I mean, yeah, sure, like, the breaks that we have now in college or university, it feels better considering we are given more flexibility to do with with whatever we want now. But I still kind of, take to heart the old middle school, um, like middle school breaks, maybe the high school breaks, maybe during the freshman and sophomore times, because I still get like those nostalgia, the nostalgia of just finally leaving school with your buddies or something, and then finally getting home, throwing your backpack away, just turning on your PS3 or your Xbox 360, turning on Modern Warfare, and, just gaming for the rest of the night. I
Yeah.
don't think that feeling can be recreated these days, but that feeling back then of like leaving school, knowing that you have a whole week or a whole month or a month or two or whatever, that nostalgic feeling to me when it comes to the in any sort of vacation time, that's what I cherish the most. Good
Yeah.
time, in my opinion. In my opinion, but I mean, these days, it's honestly better than nothing. The spring break has given me some time to think. I'm just here. I mean, I still have to work, unfortunately, but I mean, it is what it is. There's some other things going on here and there. But I mean,
Are you making moves?
what's up?
Are you making moves?
We're making some moves. Uh, we might be moving homes, maybe, not now. But as I mentioned before, the longer we stay, the longer we, have our chances of eviction because, of our cat. So we're just waiting upon taxes and stuff like that to see if we could take out a mortgage. Maybe we might even have a second person helping me out because my parents obviously can't do that. Obviously, because you know why. And it's just pretty much me trying to see if there's a way to possibly take out a mortgage. Maybe I might get a second job. Who knows? Because I believe I have to take a big loan, maybe up to like 20 to 40,000, and in order to do that, I have to take a job that makes at least 2 or 3 times or 4 times more than I have to make monthly, which is like around like $6,000 per month. And obviously, I don't make that, and it's a little bit worrying knowing that I have to make a lot more money just to take out a mortgage, just to buy a house. What's even worse is the houses here in LA, especially where my parents work at, are very expensive. We could live all the way down to like Palmdale and stuff like that, but it's just, I mean, it's an entire like 1.5 hour drive from, no, I think it's like a 2 or 3 hour drive just to get to where my parents work. And yeah, so although the houses over there are pretty nice and cheap, but they're completely away from Los Angeles, and it's a little, how would you say it, difficult to try to maneuver. But we're still managing. We'll see what happens. We're just trying to survive. How about you, Jake? How have you been, Max?
Last we left off, I was going to see the Jujutsu Kaisen movie and the Batman movie. I saw both. Very much enjoyed both movies. That Jujutsu Kaisen movie was amazing. Probably one of the best anime movies I've watched. I really enjoyed it. Despite all the memes going around, I thankfully had a pretty chill theater. They still, got hyped for some moments, but they weren't like overly annoying,
Yeah.
And overall, it was a good experience. The Batman theater was empty for the most part, but it was still a fun experience going with friends, and it was a decent movie. That's pretty much all I'll say. I did like a lot of the casting. Like the guys they got for Riddler and Penguin were really good choices.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. I recently 100% the Spider-Man game. I know I'm real late to playing that game because it came out like a couple years ago, but I 100% it. I finished everything, got all the trophies for it. Don't know if I want to get the DLC. I'll see. But it was pretty good. I really enjoyed that game too. It was probably one of the best, probably up there with some of the best games I've ever played, and I really liked the story it told. It's funny. I want to say it's almost as good as or better than a lot of the movies that we've seen done for Spider-Man. Which is crazy to think, but like the game kind of got a lot of things so well. And gameplay-wise, it was just really good. It was really fluid, and interactive. And like I was saying, I don't, me, I'm not really one of those completionist people that feels like they have to get 100% on games and trophies. Like the only other game I've done that with is the SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom remake that came out.
Right.
But there was something addicting about the Spider-Man game that made me keep wanting to go back and actually 100% it. I don't know if it's because it felt achievable, unlike other games where it feels like a huge grind. Which this game was a grind to get it to 100%, but like I don't know, like I said, there was something addicting about it that I really put in the effort to get 100% on it.
Yeah. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, other than that, been chilling, been, really kind of like, thinking things over, trying to figure out what are my next plans, next moves,
Yeah. Considering you have now the platinum trophy for the game, do you have any other platinum trophies or like any other games you've grinded for?
Just the SpongeBob one, and that's it.
No, that's interesting.
Which was funny because that was my first game that I got 100% and the platinum trophy was the SpongeBob one, and I wasn't even trying. I just did everything in the game, like played through the story and got all the in the game you have to get the socks and the golden spatulas. I just did that, and then I know where I just see the platinum trophy. I'm like, wait, what? And then I look, it was my first game I ever 100%ed.
Interesting. Holy cow.
Maybe I'll look back at Bioshock 1 and see if there's any way to achieve 100% status, because I've had a knack to go play that game again. Kind of like Nier Automata, it's one of those games that I just feel like playing over and over and restarting over and over because of how good it is, you know?
Yeah.
Like, man, I could go on and on, but like Bioshock 1 really was a masterpiece, you know? And I think when we were talking about our games to play in 2022, that was one of the things I said was that, you know, I kind of wish the other two that came after were a bit better. I know supposedly there's a fourth one, or there was rumors that a fourth one would be made, and now there's rumors that Netflix is going to do a series on it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no. I hope they don't ruin it.
Yeah, I hope they don't ruin it too, because I'm telling you, man, that the plot twist in Bioshock 1 is one of the greatest plot twists I've ever seen in like any medium, you know, movies, anime, books and stuff like that, games.
Yeah.
That plot twist is still one of the best ones I've ever seen, so I'm hoping Netflix, if it's true that they're actually doing a series, I hope they don't butcher it like they've done a lot of other stuff.
Hopefully. Did you see the Halo series that was gonna come out? I think it's already out or something.
I haven't seen any of it. I did see like that it was coming, but I was like, man, I wonder how they're gonna do that. And then I think they showed a preview of Master Chief, right?
Yeah.
And it looked pretty decent. I was like, hey, I'm surprised they got that done pretty well.
Exactly. I think, however, I think based on reviews or people have already seen it or something like that, and there's already some YouTube videos already reviewing about it. But apparently, it was an absolute horrible mess. Apparently, I think they try to. So, for those who don't know, there's this show, the series. Obviously, it's called Halo. Obviously, off the game and the main hero, Master Chief. However, I believe ever since the show came out, or I honestly I have not seen it myself. I'll be honest. People have not taken to like to it, only being because I don't even think the producers themselves even know about the story of the Halo series, nor even know about like the attitude, the character, the behavior of Master Chief himself. I think what the problem was that they just basically took a sci-fi movie and just named it Halo. And they just took the main character of some random sci-fi script that they were following with and just gave it Master Chief. You know, just gave it face. Because they believe that, oh, alright, we name it Halo, we give it Master Chief, and it's automatically a blockbuster film. And I don't think numbers were doing great at the time of recording. And I believe those who were reviewing it, they just gave it a bad liking to it. Only because I don't think it was taken to heart of the true nature of the game, and I don't even think that many references were made to the game itself. So not many people liked it. I haven't seen it. I would assume it's just not good. But yeah,
That's
pretty bad movie.
To hear,
Pretty bad series. I think
that's pretty interesting to hear because you know, you do hear a lot about how like different, like, you know, especially when it comes to making things into a series or a movie, you know, you hear a lot about, you know, some people not sticking to source material, you know, or, you know, there's cases where the like let's say an actor, they don't even know the source material, you know.
Yeah.
Like I know you've heard like Netflix is planning like a live action One Piece, and like a lot of the actors, or like some of the actors, I don't know if all of them, but some of the actors actually are like big One Piece fans. So it's like, and the director himself is working with the One Piece author. So it's like they're actually gonna try and like, you know, stick to source material and hopefully not do something like what you're saying, where they just come up with their own script, you know.
Yeah.
But it is interesting when they do stuff like that and they're just like, yeah, we're going to use the names and all this and, you know, to get the attention, but we're not going to stick to source material and all that.
Right.
It's interesting that they make those decisions, and then don't expect, you know, the backlash that they're gonna get or the negative feedback that they're gonna get.
True, true.
And speaking of feedback, I guess we'll use that to segue into today's topic, shall we, Dom?
Yes, yes, yes.
So, I want to say for the past couple of episodes, our topics have kind of been, ranging from like, different types of tier lists or, things of such, maybe reviews. But one thing that I realized we haven't done in a while is we'd kind of have a question and we'd have like this whole discussion around it.
Yeah.
And so the question I posed to Dom to think about before ahead of today's episode was, what are some of the toughest but yet most beneficial lessons you've had to learn in life? Now, if you would like to start us off, Dom, what would you say is one of the toughest but most beneficial lessons you've had to learn?
So, I remember back in like 2016, 2017 when we began high school. I was like super timid, super shy. I'll be honest, I'm mostly stuck, with the friend group that we had moving from middle school to high school. I remember I was originally gonna move from. I was thinking of going to Miguel Contreras or Downtown Magnet for high school. Wait, Downtown Magnet is a high school, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember. And and then me being stuck with the friend group, with the good pals. I think I remember you saying that your brother went to Tajima, so you're gonna go to Tajima, and then everyone else started going to Tajima, and so I decided just to stick with you guys. And I think my mom told me that I shouldn't have to keep sticking with everyone, not in a bad way, but I must be able to be comfortable with making my own decisions and be confident within myself to try to how would you say how to expand my social bubble or at least get out of my comfort zone. So she basically spoke with me and basically the main lesson that she tried to teach me was that I have to move out of my comfort zone, because if I'm uncomfortable the entire time, I'm able to move into different settings and try to adapt and learn and how it is to be how would you say, somewhere else without hiding myself, if that makes sense. And I remember taking a program back in summer
2017.
Oh yeah, it was summer 2017. Tinted Sport Technology. I'm pretty sure I've spoke about that before, maybe once or twice. But aside from what the program itself was, I remember stepping out of my comfort zone so many times. It was so awkward, so embarrassing at times, having to speak in front of an audience when I pretty much have never done that before. I've never given a speech. I've never spoken into a group of people, except for my parents, obviously. And moving along with a bunch of people I didn't even know at all. Just a bunch of other high schoolers just trying to get along. It was very awkward, but I think to me, it moved me socially or moved me internally in a way that I'm able to now speak with other people I don't even know, right? I think that little lesson of just me having to move out of my comfort zone to do things that I'm scared about, but just to do them. Just because if you're just scared to do something, then I would just say it. Then why do it, right? And but I mean that was back then. But I mean now, I don't really have that many. How would you say it? Events in my life where there was a big lesson that was meant to be life changing. Just mostly just the fact that I'm able to now move out of my comfort zone to adapt to a new environment if need be. Because I remember that back then when I had to traverse the USC campus, I had to talk to a bunch of people students, staff members, teachers, lecturers, professors, same thing. uh, it was pretty daunting. I'm just a small kid speaking with the big people, and I don't even know what I'm talking about, but I'm still able to try to raise my voice a bit, answer questions when need be. Although that did come out pretty bad. Coming back high school when I used to stand up just to read the book, that was pretty bad. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I think for me, it was that little lesson my mom taught me that I cannot stay within my comfort zone, and because if you're just staying comfortable the entire time, you're never going to be able to adapt to anything new that possibly happens. In terms of like a social aspect, if that makes sense. I'm pretty sure there's more lessons I had here and there, but I mean other small lessons like perseverance and having confidence. I think those are just the major players per se, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring it up because that ties in kind of to the first lesson that I have. One that I kind of remember learning is not every lesson is going to be learnt right away, and this kind of ties into what you're saying right now, where it could also be stuff like just like struggling to remember off the top of your head, but also like there's going to be many situations in life that happen, many experiences, and you're not gonna be able to understand them right away.
Yeah.
Now this is a lesson that was tough for me to learn because I'm not a patient person, but it was having to learn that everything isn't going to come straight at you right away.
Yeah.
Some experiences and lessons have to sit and dwell within you for an extended period of time in order for you to actually learn and understand, the lesson that was meant to be learned, why you went through such experiences,
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's not going to be there right away, it ties into, it ties into like my faith and knowing that, when it comes to God and stuff, the kind of like phrasing you hear there is that sometimes you aren't going to reap what you sow.
Right.
You're going to plant these seeds, but you aren't going to be able to see the fruit that those seeds bear. And similarly, sometimes you're going to experience such things and not be able to see where that lesson can be applied until much later.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, it's like with your case, at the time you probably maybe didn't understand completely what your mom was meaning, but as the years went on, you probably found different situations to apply it to.
True. Yeah.
It wasn't in that instantaneous moment that you knew what she meant. It was, as life progressed on, as time went on, and you went through these different experiences, you found you found those situations to apply that lesson that was being taught to you.
Yeah.
And so that's a big one that I think a lot of people need to realize is, just kind of have to be patient with things because not everything's gonna happen right away. Not everything is going to be understood right away.
True.
And that is definitely something that I struggled with a lot because it was just like, I'm it's like it's hard to see any measure of like success or growth, without it,
Yeah.
And it's just kind of tough because it's hard being patient and kind of going to tying in another lesson that I had to learn that was very tough because it kind of goes similar to what you were talking about, actually having to learn what actual friends are, because much like you mentioned, I also grew up very shy and introverted for a plethora of reasons,
Yeah.
Obviously I was just shy naturally, but there was also other experiences in my life that just made me shy and not very outgoing, not very trusting towards people. So making friends was difficult, especially because, one of the things that really made me shy and introverted was I didn't really make a lot of friends early on,
Yeah.
And like it was very difficult because, I didn't know, I didn't have how would you say, the kind of knowledge. Basically, I know it kind of sounds camera, but I didn't know how to make friends,
Right.
I didn't have the experience, so it was very difficult to learn what an actual friend was, because there was times where it's like, I don't know if you've had experiences like this, Dom, where it's like you could be talking to someone 1 second and then like a few minutes later they're in a group of other people making fun of you,
Right.
and
Right.
you're just kind of left there confused because you're like, you were just talking to me, but now that other people come, now you're making fun of me, and not like in a playful way that friend groups act now. It was like, you know, so that was very confusing as a child, because it's like, how do you even come to understand that? Obviously, again, going tying back to the first lesson, I learned later on, you know, how to actually determine what are friends or not. Because again, similarly, I think this is also another one you probably will like. You've experienced a ton too. Is like in school where you talk with someone like for the entirety of a class, but then never at all or not at all after class.
Yeah.
It's only like when you're in that class during that period, that you're talking with them, that like that's the only point you ever talk with them. And it's like you start to realize, okay, well maybe this isn't really a friend, because it's like you don't talk to them at all unless you're in that kind of situation or setting.
Yeah.
And then building further upon that is having to learn how to balance different friend groups, because obviously within different friend groups, not everyone is the same. Not every how, I forget the word to use here, but not every arrangement is the same, if you want to say,
Yeah. Yeah.
like there's different interests within each group. There's different personalities that might not mesh well, and
Right. Right.
that was another thing I just had to learn growing up, was who are actual friends. Uh,
Right.
are any other ones coming to your mind, Dom? As I'm kind of explaining some that I've had to learn.
Uh, patience is key, as you mentioned before. Not every, yeah, yeah, you already mentioned this, but I think for me, it hit me the most when I was trying to like lose weight at the time. Uh, for me, like my mom always teaches me the small things always matter in life, but as well as the patience. Uh, patience being the main factor in which uh, patience within long term goals, not short term, but the long term goals are always the hardest to keep up. I remember when I was trying to lose weight, I tried to cut everything, soda and all that stuff like that, uh, and it was difficult trying to like exercise every day as much as I can, but getting tired so quickly and stuff like that. But I mean, over time, it did fare well. Uh, but I mean, it just pretty much answered that. But yeah, patience is always some, it's always one of the key factors when it comes to waiting upon something, trying to push through something when in terms of like a long term project, a long term event. It always helped me out. But for any other lessons, I'm not really sure of many other things. I'll be honest. Pretty much, it's just been patience, perseverance, and trying to come out of my social circle.
Can I ask you a question real quick, Dom?
Yes, yes, yes.
Tying into the weight loss thing, I've seen plenty of people, like us, were fairly big, younger, and then they put in the effort to lose the weight later on in life.
Yeah.
I've seen experiences with like that with people, especially online, people who post their stories. I just want to know if you kind of went through something similar. Was there ever points in time where you would look at yourself and the change you were going through, the journey, and still think at times to yourself that what you were doing wasn't enough?
Pretty much, pretty much. Yeah, the first days, like following like an exercise routine, I did like those Zumba things, like, but they will go on for like an entire hour long. And for some reason, I would always tell myself to not look in the mirror, knowing that yeah, first day nothing is gonna change. It's pretty much the same thing as I'm gonna look like before. Same thing when I had a weight scale. Oh, I still have the weight scale. But I would just tell myself to not weigh myself because there's pretty much no point. But pretty much every day, I would still do the same thing. I would look in the mirror, I would weigh myself, see if anything different happened. But nothing obviously would change because it's, barely the first days. You don't lose weight magically quickly. Unless you're an MMA fighter and then you dehydrate yourself, but that's something different. I think over time I just simply decided just to not look at myself for the most part and just not weigh myself at all. Until like half a month later, I would do that. But I wouldn't really look at the mirror at all, nor would I just ever use a scale. I would just simply trust myself to know that I may be losing the weight and that I am making better, decisions for myself in terms of like health, like food and stuff like that. But how would you say it? I'm not sure how to explain it. I would eventually just not care to look at the mirror, knowing that if I feel like I'm doing something healthier for myself, trying to exercise every day and cutting off any food that's unnecessary, like junk food and other likes, I feel like I'd be doing better. Although I wouldn't know I'm progressing better, I just feel like I'd be doing better, considering I'm taking better decisions for myself. So when time came to be, I would begin to look at the mirror, but then I would feel like egotistical about it, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm making sense about what I just said, but how would you say it? Looking in the mirror and then knowing that, and then I weigh myself and then I said, oh wow, I lost 50 pounds at the time. It didn't feel right per se, if that makes sense. Because it feels like I'm looking at a version of myself that now from that point on forward is gonna exclusively just look at myself like, wow, look at me, I did this, I did that, I did this. Look at me, I look at everyone, I've lost weight, I'm better. Not better than everyone else, but I'm just better, per
You're
se.
a better version of yourself.
Better version of myself. And I pretty much lost my previous self, which sucks a lot. I mean, back then I was, I guess, a bit more cheerful. But I mean, well, when it came to like the weight loss and the 50 pounds lost afterwards, I mostly just focused on myself mostly. And I didn't, I remember. I think I used to. What was it? I remember I used to be exercising and stuff like that, and I would lose out on like little small like family events stuff like that, just because I would tell my parents, "Oh yeah, I'm exercising, mom, I can't go," and it sucked. It definitely sucked. I mean, at this point, I can't really say it was pretty much for the better. But I don't know. I don't know.
And
It was an odd experience. It was very odd.
And I just want to say, going back to what you were talking about earlier about the whole thing of egotistical and stuff. I think it's not a lesson we've learned. I think it's a lesson both of us are still learning and having to learn. Is that there's a big difference between confidence and arrogance.
True.
There's a big difference between being proud of your achievements and boastful of your achievements.
You got a point.
Like throughout high school, I just wouldn't accept any type of praise because I never thought I was deserving of it.
Yeah.
I was always just like, no, there's people better, of course. Even when I got into UCLA and I heard different people didn't, I was always like, it doesn't make sense. Those people deserved it more than me. They worked harder than me. So I always tried to downplay everything because it's like I never wanted to come off as that, oh yeah, look at me, I did this and this, not realizing that, there's a difference between that and, oh, I'm happy that my hard work paid off and I got to where I am.
Yeah.
And with about 5 minutes left, I'll just kind of go into my final lesson. I had some other ones I want to get into, but this one, again, it's a lesson I've learned, but it's also one that's, still applying day to day in my life, and I'm still learning. I've really been learning it for the past, I want to say 7 to 8 years, and that's happiness and a will to live, cannot be dependent on others, much like, what I'm talking about with confidence,
Yeah.
It's, you know, with confidence, you can still be proud of yourself while, not having to put yourself down for the sake of uplifting others,
Right.
You can still think that those people were deserving of getting those opportunities while still thinking you deserve it as well,
Yeah.
And similarly, it's like, because, you're so used to putting yourself down for that. It's like when it comes to happiness, a lot of people just got to realize that it can't be dependent on others for the longest time, And even to this day, at times, I'm just like, oh, I have to be happy because, this and this, for this person, like, I can't afford to be depressed because, like, I have people who rely on me,
Yeah.
Or I have people, because it's like when you go through such a long period, it's like you're like, I have people waiting on me, because one thing that people don't realize is how much you miss out on,
Yeah.
Like 8 years, dude, I've been depressed and I've just realized, how much I've missed out on, because sure, I was physically there, but like emotionally and really like mentally, I wasn't there, I was out of a lot of those moments,
Right.
And so it's like at some point I was just like, why is it that I have to be happy for others,
True.
And again, kind of like the confidence area, it's not in a bad way, but it's like, why should my happiness have to depend on others? Why should it have to depend on, other people, that I'm happy in my life, or if I'm not happy in my life,
Right.
And like the same thing came to be, in battling different things that come with depression, it was like, my reasoning for being in this life should not depend on others,
Right.
I have to find my own reasons to live this life,
You're true.
Because, like, I think you can relate to it's like, and like a lot of kids obviously have the same mindset of, in this life they want to help out the people before them, like their parents or their guardian, their family members, And they kind of make that their sole will to live, their sole reason,
Yeah.
And then that causes all these expectations where when they feel like they don't meet them, they feel like they're disappointing those people, because of the set expectations and stuff. But you just slowly got to realize that as much as you want to help those people out, at the same time, they're not your sole reasoning to live,
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's nice that you want to help, like that kids want to help out their parents, but they also got to realize there's more to life than that, Because a lot of kids, and I speak from experience, a lot of kids, get caught up in the fact that, oh, their parents did this and this for them, and it's just like, because they're parents, Like, they're
Right.
like, oh, they provided for me all these years. Yeah, they provided because they're parents. That's what they signed up for when they decided to have a kid, You shouldn't feel in debt to them just because they did their jobs as a parent, And that's something I had to teach myself is I can't depend, my happiness and my will to live on my parents. I have to find my own purpose and meaning in this life, Because that's what got me into this hole of 8 years,
Yeah.
And so it's just having to learn from there, well, what do I want to do? What is my reason to live in this life,
Right.
And for about 15 seconds there, guess we'll close out. I've been your host, Jack, joined by my fellow co-hosts,
Dominic Castillo.
Thank you all for joining us for another episode of the Rule 34 Podcast Season 2. See you in the next episode.